All right, we have tracked him down, Australia's most nomadic tournament fisherman, Tommy Deere. Explain where you are at the moment. You've got a little fan in the corner of the picture there. Where are you sitting?
Yeah, I'm sitting in my motorhome down on Boyne Island, just out of Gladstone.
And I think you would be well known as Australia's most nomadic tournament fisherman. You made a really smart decision early in COVID. That was, if you're going to get isolated anywhere, let's get isolated somewhere cool like in Queensland. Was that a conscious or a lucky decision?
Yeah, no, we did some serious thinking about it because, like, we had been down in Tassie, and then we had the bass tournament at St Clair in New South Wales.
Yep.
And there was a bit of a hint that borders would be closing, and we thought, will we go back to SA? And then they shut the borders really quick. And the idea was, well, we normally spend winter up in Queensland anyway, so let's get up there. And we came across the border in March, I think about 6 hours before the closure. So it was a good idea. Yeah.
And you've been there ever since?
Yeah, been here ever since March, and it's been interesting. Done a lot of fishing. I mean, I've got a new boat, as most people would know, and I picked up this boat in SA in November.
Yep.
And I think at last look on the hours clocked up, it was something like 260 hours.
Wow, that's cool, because the normal solid recreational use is about 100 hours a year. So you're doing well on that front. And I think your fishing is actually it's actually benefiting from it, because you've done a few events. You've done Wivenhoe and Somerset in the Bass Pro. You've done Bribey in the Brim, and you seem to be catching fish. You're feeling good about life at the moment? You're feeling good about your fishing?
Yeah, I do. A couple of years ago, I mean, I was saying that, I'm about over this. I'd almost had enough. And then, things started to change, and I think some of that comes down to yourself, Steve, and the way the ABT is run these days. And it just gave me a new lease on life. And I started enjoying the fishing a lot more and not taking it as seriously. People might look at it now and say, oh, you've done a hell of a lot of pre-fishing up here. But, there's a couple of tournaments where I didn't do any pre-fishing at all and just went out and enjoyed it. And, I've been getting, more often than not a top 10 finish, which is, good for me.
That's good, and it helps pays the bills as well. And I notice we give away the cameras for the event. So if you're up in the top 10, you normally get offered a camera. You've been very willing to get the camera, set it up, take the time, make it look good, and you can see that reflected in the highlights that we do each night. You are enjoying your fishing and you're having some good conversations with your non-boater, and we really appreciate the efforts you go to do the who shares wins thing. There's no real secret techniques out there. There's just different attitudes and different spots and different strategies for the day. So we really appreciate the fact that you're embracing that coverage of the event, which I think is getting better and better as we go.
Yeah, it is. Like that. The coverage is fantastic, and like you're not giving away that much by letting people see where you're at and what you're doing. I mean, because the people that know, they know anyway. They can just.
That's right.
So there's no secrets really amongst the tournament guys, I wouldn't think.
No, especially in a bass tournament, because especially at places like Wivenhoe, where we had a 6-knot limit, you couldn't really get too far away from the pack in that joint. It was really interesting to see how those two events played out. Wivenhoe, I don't know if we hit it early or late, but the fishing was just a little bit off. But then Somerset, the fishing really came good through the weekend. How have you enjoyed that difference between the bass and the brim tournaments? Bass guys aren't afraid of getting up close and personal with each other, whereas the brim guys tend to spread out a little bit more. Is that your experience fishing those two circuits?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I did have an experience sort of recently doing a bass team event, and I think I'd just come from Bribey, where I'd done the brim. So I was in this bass team event, had Bridget was fishing it with me and a new lad. And, there was a couple of bass boats there, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just sort of sneak through here and continue my fishing. And it was a little bit unusual in that comp. It wasn't an ABT comp. And one bloke just yelled out to me, and I thought, well, mate, you can't hit me with a lure, even a spoon. And like that was a little bit weird. And I just said, well, I'm moving through. How far do you want me to go? And he didn't answer and he just up and left. That was a little bit weird, but yeah, I mean the brim guys will generally don't like being close to anyone, and the bass guys, depending on the bite, really, with bass, they're quite okay. You can almost sort of jump to another boat and vent a fish for somebody and that sort of stuff.
That's
So,
right.
I mean that
It is
happens in
very
bass.
social,
It wouldn't
isn't
happen in brim.
Definitely. You mentioned Bridget there. Bridget's a real lifesaver for us. She's great on the computer and she helps a lot behind the scenes. And a big thanks for bringing Bridget along, because she gives Nicole some great support behind the scenes. And what it really means is that if people are watching at home and want to have those live scoreboards on the side of the live weigh-ins, if there's not someone there like Bridget entering them, it doesn't really happen. So a big thanks from ABT to your partner who obviously gives you great support, but gives us great support as well.
Yeah. She not only gives me support, she's my manager. So,
really? Okay.
So,
do you get some pep talks sometimes before the tournaments about how you need to lift your
Well,
performance?
like part of my attitude change, I think, has been down to her as well. She'll just say, look, just chill out and, just go out there and catch 10 fish and just whatever happens, happens sort of thing. So, and if you don't catch 10, she says, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Just go out and enjoy yourself. So every once in a while, she'll just bring me back to earth on that. So, no, she's pretty handy to have around.
I hear rumours that in the teams tournaments that she fishes, and in pre-fishes she actually touches you up sometimes and you catches a few more fish.
Yeah, it's strange, when the fishing is really tough. So either in the brim or the bass, it doesn't really matter. When the fishing is really tough, she will touch me up every time. But when it's a normal sort of bite, I sort of come to the fore then. But when it's tough, she's spot on the money.
Mate, tell us, given that the people that don't know you and don't know the van, give us a little bit of a rundown on what you're travelling and living in at the moment. Tell us how the system works.
Okay, so I used to travel around in a Toyota Hiace pop top, and that was a little bit crowded for the two of us. But now I've got a Iveco daily van. It's a 5.6 metre van. It's got everything in it except the shower. We got an external hot shower. It's got a cooker and fridge and all that sort of stuff. And that tows my my boat, my Stacer Assault Pro tournament. And just live in this, and we go from place to place, and it makes life pretty easy. Down in Tasmania or through Victoria, and then up to Queensland. And I built this one 2.5 years ago, and the first time I'd ever built anything, and contracted out some of the tough jobs like the carpentry and that sort of stuff. But the rest you can do yourself. So. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. Now, do you have problems storing your gear? Because you're in Gladstone at the moment. There are brim, bass and barra within a couple of hours of you, and we'll talk about the fishing in a little bit, but how do you carry all the gear for all those different species at once? Are you pretty frugal with your gear, or do you just manage to find a place to stuff it in?
No, I'm pretty frugal. I sort of bring what I think I need, and then I bring a spares box. But with this new boat, I could have brought everything with me. I've got a storage shed down in Panmure, New South Wales, which holds all the rest of the gear. But no, I've got plenty of bass gear, limited brim gear, and limited barra gear. But you don't have to limit it. You can. I don't know. Someone like yourself probably fills up a whole truck, but
Can only use one at a time.
Really,
mate.
What's that?
You can only use one at a time.
Oh, that's it. And the thing is, if you have, say, like a day box when you go out fishing, so if you think, well, these are all the lures I want to try today, you end up, having about 50 or 60 lures in just one box, and when you work it out, you cannot sample every one of those lures in a day. So we tend to, take too many, way too many, and it just. On the day, usually you're only using, maybe 3 lures, and that's it. 3 rods.
Yep.
Yeah. So I cut it back a bit.
Good stuff. Now, you've been on, of course, we're coming up to the great time of year where we do the Gladstone Brim event sponsored by Mercury. We do the Venom Rods Barra Australian Open on Awonga, and then we go straight to the Queensland Open at Cania, sponsored by Rapala. You're not doing all three, but you're having a crack at two of them, aren't you? And tell us about how the arenas have been fishing. We don't need you to give us any secrets away, but what are we going to expect in Gladstone and Cania?
Well, Gladstone, I was here a couple of weeks ago, just for a couple of days, and it was a struggle. I think I caught one legal brim, and I didn't really catch any bycatch at all. And then, the last few days here, it's totally changed. The bycatch of grunder and perch and those blasted, whatever they are, pike, they're a pain in the neck. But, the bycatch has increased, and also, the catch of yellowfin brim has increased. So, if it keeps going like this, it's a upward curve. It should fish really well. But the tropics, I don't understand them at all. So we'll wait and see. But it's on the right track. But the wind has been a bit of a nightmare. It's been blowing 25 kilometres an hour at least, sort of from the southeast every day. So
yep.
I hope that doesn't happen. But Gladstone. Yeah, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said no, I don't want to fish it. But now,
Yep.
No, I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, it should be fine. Awunga, well, I was out at Awunga probably 2 weeks ago, and the water temp was 21 to 22 degrees.
Yep.
And I think I had one hook up straight in the hook on a soft plastic. And then we happened to meet Trevor Burgess at the boat ramp, and sadly that was I think the day before he passed away on the dam, and he actually gave us a few tips on where to fish and how to fish, and we went out and did that, and all of a sudden we started catching a few fish, up to 95 centimetres, and then I went out to the dam last week, just for a couple of days, and the water temperature had gone up a full degree or 2 degrees in the back of some of the bays. So it's now up to 22, 24, and I haven't been there for 3 or 4 days. So I expect it's even warmer than that now. So yeah, I'd say Awunga's going to, again, it's sort of on the increase, so that should be good. Cania, I was out there about 3 weeks ago, and it was just sort of the usual sort of Cania, spoons, plastics, blades. There were schools of 40 centimetre fish, there were schools of 44s, there were schools of 47s. So it just depended which school you got on. But the fish out there are really thin. So, but that was about 3 weeks ago. So I'm heading out there either today or tomorrow, and I'll have another look.
Awesome, mate. You are definitely living the dream, because I know there's a lot of guys that are sitting, especially the ones down in Victoria who are locked down, who are saying Tom Deere is living the life at the moment, mate. So we really appreciate that update. And it's great to see, it was a tragedy with what happened to Trevor,
yes.
But it's great to see his legacy living on. There are so many people that have come out and said, you know what, Trevor helped me get onto fishing Awunga, and that legacy will last on. And tragic events, but good to see that he has a positive impact on your life as well.
Yeah, it really touched Bridget, because she had a good long chat with him, and then we didn't go out to the dam sort of the next night, but the following night we did, and he wasn't there, and we thought, well, that's strange. And then we heard that the night we weren't there was the problem.
Awesome, mate. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time in your van to join us. We look forward to catching up with you at the events. And we also know that you watch a bit of Lockdown live when you're on the road as well. I think you've won a prize before from one of the competitions.
I did.
Run. So
yeah.
I hope it helps to keep you and everyone else who's watching, especially our brothers down in Victoria, just abreast with what's going on and what's happening in the ABT tournament scene. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome, Steve.